This is the second part of an introduction to Edge Animate. In the first part, I created a very simple slideshow with three images. And now I'd like to add some interactivity to my slideshow. So I would like to add three little buttons, very discrete little buttons that I can put on the bottom right corner of my slideshow, and the user, the viewer, can click each button that links him to one of the images. So to begin, I will move my playhead to the very beginning. And I would like to draw, with the tools that I have here, a little circle to be one of my buttons. Using the ellipse tool, I will move my cursor to the lower right corner of my screen, although it doesn't really matter. And I will draw a little circle. You draw a circle the same way that you do in any of the other graphic programs that you've done before. Okay, you can do it by shift click. Okay, and you have more or less a circle. Okay, now I'd like it to be a fairly small, but not too small, because in a cell phone it will become very tiny. So I'm going to make it 15 pixels. 15 pixels in diameter and 15 pixels in width and height. The width and the height are located over here. If you notice, here is the width and here is the height. I'm going to make this 15 pixels and break this so that I can change this one also to 15. That makes it a perfect circle. Alright, there we go. Okay, and the other thing I'd like to do is make this into what is called a symbol. In Edge Animate, you have the ability to create symbols. Symbols are master, it's like a master circle that you can use in many different applications. Well, in this application, you can create more instances of a symbol. So the symbol will appear in the symbols subpanel of the library. What I'm going to do is right-click the symbol that I have on the stage. The circle that I have on the stage, which is, by the way, called an ellipse. And if you notice, it appears on the timeline, and it also appears in the elements. And here the ellipse is shown with its properties. Well, I just changed the diameter. I'm going to right click the circle and then go down all the way to almost to the bottom where it says convert to symbol, and I'll click convert to symbol. I'd like to name it, and I'm going to call it navigation button, but I'll just write NAV for navigation, and then BUTTON for button. And notice that I used no space between the two words, nav and button. And I did that deliberately because I wanted to be just one word. I think in general this is better when you are naming objects. I use something called camel case, where the separate words are capitalized and no space is left between them, so it appears as one word. Okay, click OK. And now the environment has completely changed. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's not. But I'm going to go to the nav button editing window. Here is the nav. I did that by double clicking. Let me go back to the stage. Okay. Here is the original circle that I drew. Okay, if I want to continue editing my circle and changing the symbol, then I go to the symbol, library symbols, and notice that you have a little icon next to the nav button. Okay, I'm gonna double click and it takes me to a new environment. So here is the editing window for the nav button. And look up here at the top on the stage. The stage has gone, and now what I see here is the little circle in a tiny little box. Okay, and next to the name nav button is the stage. So if I want to go back to the stage, I can just click right here. Click on the stage and it takes you back to the stage. Double click again on the nav button and it takes you to the navigation button. Now notice that a symbol has its own timeline. See, here is the timeline for the symbol. And the symbol has one single element called the ellipse. Okay, if I click inside the symbol, I will select that element. I can also click it here. And then the ellipse appears with its properties listed here. Okay, now I can change the color, the size, and many other things. Now remember that this is like a master. So that means that you can create many instances of this symbol on the stage. Here under color, you notice that you have a swatch for the color, and next to it you have a little swatch for the gradient. I'd like it to be a gradient rather than a color to give it more three-dimensional look. So I'm going to click here for the circle. This is the ellipse that I'm editing. So I'm going to change it so that, okay, I have already made some gradients here. Go ahead and remove this. Well, okay. Let me go ahead and change this gradient so that I have a red gradient, and maybe making this a little bit more dramatic, I'll choose a black for this step. These are two steps. For the bottom step, I'd like it to be black, so I make it black, and the top, I'd like to make it bright red. There we go. Okay, I'll also like to make it radial, so I'm going to choose this little radial. Okay, it says ellipse furthest corner. I'm not sure what that means, but I think it means that the outer corners will be red and the inside will be dark. Well, let's go the other way. Okay. Oh, now that puts the dark inside. All right, let me change it to what it was before. There we go. I will also add it to my you can add a plus sign to add it to your swatches here. Okay, so now this is what my circle looks like. I mean, look at it. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted the center to be bright and the outer part to be a little dark. Okay, back to this. You can also add a border. Here for the border, if I click it, I have to, if this has none, so I'm going to say that I want a solid border. Okay, and here gives me 1 pixel for the solid border and it's black. This is to choose the color, and this is to say what kind of a border, and this is for how wide, how thick the border is. So I'll leave it 1 pixel. So now it's got a border, and it's a black border. So let's see. Okay, it looks what I expected. Very good. Okay, now here is the thing. I want to show you how to change that gradient from one gradient to another and animate the gradient. I'm going to do it on the timeline. This is the timeline for my symbol. Okay, so at the very beginning, I like it to stay red until 1/4 of a second. This is 1/4 of a second, 250 milliseconds. 250 milliseconds, 1/4. Okay, at that 1/4, I like the ellipse to change color, to change gradient. So I can do it by right-clicking here and go down to add keyframe. And now what I want to add is a color keyframe or gradient keyframe. So I'm going to click the gradient. Okay, so now it shows here under ellipse, it shows gradient, shows the gradient swatch and the adding keyframes. Okay, so it's red at the beginning. I'm going to go 1/2 a second, so it's 250 milliseconds. I'll add one keyframe and I can click it here. Okay, and I will switch the gradient and I can do it right here or right here. I'll click it here. Okay, and I will automatically add this one that was already there. Okay, so here is my new gradient. I think this is not quite black. Let me make it black. Okay, here we go. Yeah, let's make it more dramatic. Okay, so that's my gradient now. My gradient now is kind of like goldish, greenish. I will right click here and add a transition. Okay, where were we? Yes, we just added the gradient. Okay, and now I can play it by scrolling the time bar, the playhead. Scrolling the playhead, it goes from red to green, yellow. Okay, and there it is. From red to green. Okay, so all my master is now an animated little button. Okay, now another thing is I'd like to add another color. I like to add another color because I also wanted to interact with the mouse center and mouse sleeve. This is an event that happens when the user enters with the mouse into the button and then the button changes color. Okay, we'll do that by moving the playhead again another 1/4 of a second. This would be at the 1000. I'll add another keyframe and half a second later I'll add another keyframe. So for this interval from here to here, I like it to change also. So this time I'll choose the purple gradient. And let me see, this is not black, so let me move it to the black. Yeah, I think that makes it more dramatic. This is also, I like it to be very bright so it can be seen. Alright, there we go. Okay. And then I will right click here and create transition. So now I have two gradient changes. If I were to play these, okay, let me deselect this so that we can see it. Okay, I will click the, notice the change from green, red to green, from green to purple. Okay, great. Okay, another thing that I'd like this master to have it's the ability to change its color when the mouse enters, not automatically. Because if I add it to the stage the way it is right now, then it would go through those changes, those gradient changes automatically. And I don't want it to do that. I wanted to do it only when the user mouse is over it, with its mouse. So to do that, I have to add a little bit of code. And that's where some of the interactions are going to occur. So the mouse, the circle itself is this little symbol, has the ability to listen to events, or the circle itself has the ability to listen to the events, the ellipse. So what I'm going to do is right here on the left side of the timeline, you see this curly braces right next to the word ellipse. Okay, I'm going to click that. And it gives me an editing window. Here, let me move the window a little higher so you can see it. This is a code window where I can add code. The plus sign at the very top, if I click it, it tells me all the events that I can have this circle listen for. The circle sits there very quietly in its red color. And it will sit there and wait for a mouse enter. So that's what I wanted to listen for, a mouse enter. So I'm going to click mouse enter. Okay, now it has what it's called edit the event mouse enter. Okay, so now in mouse enter, I can write a little function. This function is already started for me. All I need to do is tell it what to do. I want it to play. So I will click the play right here. Oops. Here, it put it in the wrong place. Let me erase that. Okay, I deleted that. Now let me click play. Alright, see, so it added this little line for me. What it will do, it will play, but it will play the whole thing, and I don't want it to play the whole thing. I want it to play only, let me move this out of the way so you can see it. I want it to play only this part of the timeline. I want it to play from here to here. So it will change from red to green, or to yellow, green, whatever. Okay, and that place location on the timeline is 750 milliseconds. So inside of this, I will play, this is a play, simple play, but what I need is another command that tells it to stop at 750. So I'm going to click, okay, bring this over so you can see it. Here are the commands that I can type in. I can have Edge Animate do these commands for me. So I will put stop at. Oops, okay. Let me return the key so that I can put each command in a separate line. Okay, so way we can see all the commands. I've got two commands now. One tells Edge to play the animation, and the other one tells it to stop somewhere. And I want it to stop at 750. So I'm going to enter 750 milliseconds. There we go. Okay, so I will close the window. And now what I like to do is test it. To test it, I have to go back to the main stage. Here is my main stage. I have it on the stage. Here it is. So, and it's shown right here. Now, notice these little chevron lines. I don't know if you can see them clearly. They represent the animation of this little button that I added. Now, this button that I added on the stage is not the symbol itself. It's actually a child of the symbol, or what some people would call an instance of the symbol. I can give it a special name. Automatically, Edge gave it a name called NavButton2. I'm not terribly happy with that name, so I could change it if I wanted to. I could change it right here, What I'd like to do is put a 1 instead of a 2 because it's the first one. Okay, so I'll enter that name. So it's net button 1. I also don't want it to play automatically. So here under playback, see that little plus sign? I will click that. Okay, and out pops a little window where I can choose stop. Okay, so it's got a stop. So now the little button will sit there and look real pretty red, but it won't do anything until the user mouses over it. So let's check to see if it works. Okay, so I'm going to enter command return or go to file, preview in browser. Remember, you cannot preview this on the timeline right here in Edge. You have to do it in the browser. So enter preview in browser. Okay, bring the browser in here. I'll bring it into the stage so that you can see it. And there is my button right there. Oops, I already moused over. Sorry. Okay, there it is. It's red, it's pretty, it's visible. Okay, now what I'm going to do as a user to test it, I'm going to mouse over it. So I'm going to take my mouse and go over it. And see how it turned green? And there it is. Now it's green. So it obeyed the 2 commands. One was to play when the mouse goes over it. Let me refresh again. Okay. When the mouse enters it, it will play the little animation of changing from one gradient to another gradient. It will change from red to green. And there it goes. Okay. So it works. Okay, now let me go back to the main master. And let me go back to the code window. You can go to the code window, by the way, by double clicking the little icon right here. Okay, now, so I have a mouse center. I like to also have a mouse sleeve. So I like this little button to change color on mouse sleeve. So I'm going to click again plus, go down to mouse sleeve. Notice the comment that you see here at the very top. Anything that you see following 2 slashes is considered a comment and it's ignored by the translator, which in this case is the browser. So the browser would look at it and say, oh, that's just a comment. Okay, I'm going to remove this comment. Okay. Now, what I like on mouse sleeve is for the button to change color, to go back to red. Remember that it turned from red to green. And from green, I want it to go back to red when the mouse leaves. So I'm going to put play reverse. So that will take the playhead, and the playhead is landed up here at 750 on mouse center, and then it will do is the reverse. It will go back to red and stop at 0. Okay. All right, so let's test that. Okay, to test it again, you dismiss this window. Let's go back to the stage. Okay, and then bring back the browser. Remember the browser, all you need to do is refresh it and it will record the changes that you made. So now let's test it. Okay, so here is the button, red, sitting here real pretty. Okay, I'm going to mouse into it. So I will enter the, notice it turned green. Now I will mouse out, leave, and it goes back to red. Green, red, green, red. Oh, fun. Okay, So it's got the ability to change color now on mouse enter and mouse leave. So is the nav button ready now for prime time? I think so. So what I'm going to do is add two more buttons in my screen. So I'm going to bring back another button, put it in the screen next to the other one, and then one more. Let me just move this so that I can have more room. Okay, and I will line it up so that it's more or less at the same line as the other one. By the way, you have the ability to let me select all three of them at the same time, and then I can go to modify, align, and I can say I want them to be horizontal center. I think. Oops, no, that's not what I want. I'm sorry. Go back. Okay, well, let me just do a command Z, and then modify. I want align vertical center. Okay, so it's already in vertical center. They look pretty good. Now the only thing is that these two buttons right here, these are instances, are named button 3 and button 4. I want them to be button 1. The first one is button 1. This is button 1. I want this one to be button 2, so I'm going to change the name to 2. Okay. And this one to be button 3. It's the 4. Change the 4 to 3. There we go. The other thing is that I want them to stop just like the first button. So at the plus sign here, the little plus sign, I don't know if you can see it. Okay, click the plus sign and then put stop. Same thing with this one. Stop. Okay, so all of them will stop and stay as red buttons. They will turn green only if they mouse over them. One other thing that I noticed when I was testing my buttons is that the mouse stays as an arrow, and I like it to change to a little hand, because the little hand tells the user that that it's a button and that they can click it. So let me double click the master. Here is the master. Okay, inside the master is my circle. I will click the circle, and then I will go down to what it says cursor. Cursor is towards the bottom. Okay, here cursor is this auto. Okay, I like it to be the hand. So when I click auto, it shows me a little window with other choices for the mouse. I like to choose the hand, called the pointer. Okay, so now when I test it, it will show the hand when the user enters the button. So let me go back and bring the browser and refresh. Okay, so now when I get close to it and I enter, it turns into a hand, it turns green, and if I move out, it turns red. Green, red, green, red. Oh, this is cute, see? You can play musical chairs right here. Okay, so anyway, that's a little bit of interactivity. Okay, but that's not enough. One other thing I want to do is to let the... I now have a small, I'm sorry, let me start again. I now have a slideshow with 3 little buttons, and they all react the same when we roll over the buttons. That's because it's the master who owns that ability. The master has the ability to switch colors whenever it is rolled on it. So all it's instances would do the same. But what I want now is to add an event. I want them to be able to go somewhere when the user clicks the buttons. So let me go back to the stage now and decide where I want each button to send the viewer to on the timeline. For instance, I'd like the first button to go to the rooster. And I'd like it to go to any point in between the 2-second mark and the 5-second mark, where the rooster is not doing anything but sitting there. I might as well just send it to the 3000 milliseconds. 3000 milliseconds would send me to see the rooster. Okay. Now, for the chickens, you would have to be between 6,000 milliseconds and 9,000 milliseconds. So I'll send it to the 7,000 milliseconds. Okay, and for Cena, it'll have to go between 10,000 milliseconds and 13,000 milliseconds. So I'll go to the 11,000 milliseconds. And there is Cena. So that's where I want the buttons to take the viewer to. Okay, so in each button I will add an event for a click. For instance, let's start with the rooster. I'm sorry, with the button number 1. Button number 1 would take the user to the rooster. So let's do at the click event. On the click event, then we would like it to play from, or to play or stop, rather stop, I think, stop at 3000. Okay, oops, 3000. Let's enter here 3000. Okay. Now for button number 2, on the click event, I wanted to stop at 7,000. 7,000 milliseconds. Okay. And for button number 3, on the click event, I wanted to stop at 11,000. So now let's see what happens. Now let's bring back the browser. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, there is the rooster, there is the chickens, and there is Cena. Okay, I want to go to the, oh, well, the rooster is here. Let's go to Cena, and there is Cena. Let's go to the chickens, and let's go to the rooster. Okay, so rooster is the first button, the chickens is the second button, and Cena is the third button. So each button has a slide that it will go to. And that's more or less what I wanted. The only thing is I want the user to recognize when they click the button. So this is when they mouse over the button and mouse out of the button, but I want them to also change color when it clicks the button. So on the click button, we can add it to the master. So let's go back to the navigation button. Here in the symbols, environment, I'm going to open again the code window for the ellipse, and I'd like to add in the event of the click event. On the click event, I wanted to change color. I wanted to change to a purple color, to the purple gradient that we have. So what I'm going to do is a stop it. Okay, stop it. And remember that the purple color, the gradient, turns purple at the end of the animation, which is 1,500. So at 1,500 milliseconds, I will enter here 5,000. I wanted to stop. That's where it turns purple. That's when it's completely purple. 1,500. Okay, and so now let's test it. Okay, so let's bring back the let's refresh the browser, clicking the little arrow. Okay, so here are the buttons. When I mouse over each button, it turns green, and then it turns red again when I mouse out. Mouse in, green, mouse out. Okay. Now if I wanted to stop, or I wanted to go someplace else, like the rooster, then I click the rooster, and notice that when I clicked, it turned purple. As soon as I mouse out, then it will turn back to red. Okay, here I'm mousing in. Now I'm gonna click, and it turns purple. So that indicates to the user that he or she has clicked. Okay, here is Sina, and it turned purple. So that's pretty much what I wanted to do. I wanted navigation buttons that react to the user's mouse actions and take the user to one of the slides. For instance, the first one goes to the first slide that's sliding, which is the rooster. The second one goes to the chickens, and the third one goes to Sina. So we are done with this slideshow. Thank you very much for staying with me and holding up while my little bird makes enormous noise. And thank you for your patience. And I hope this helped you a little bit in understanding somewhat Edge Animate. Edge Animate is a very, very rich program. So have fun with it.